The security footage would later show Hunter Maxwell ripping Raven Coleman's shirt clean down the middle at exactly 11:43 a.m. But what the cameras couldn't capture was the moment a 17-year-old honors student decided she was done being Westfield High's favorite target. 3 boys would leave in ambulances that Tuesday morning, and by the time the viral video hit 10 million views, everyone would finally understand why the quiet girl from Detroit had been hiding her championship boxing trophies in her locker for 6 months straight. Before we dive into Raven's story, if you've ever stood up to a bully, or wished you had the courage to, drop a comment below. I read every single one. And your stories inspire these videos. And hey, if these stories about everyday heroes fighting back touch your heart, consider hitting that thanks button underneath this video. Your support, no matter how small, helps me research and share more stories of young people finding their strength when the system fails them. Every donation goes directly into bringing more voices like Raven's to light, because sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the moments when we refuse to be victims anymore. Now, let me tell you exactly how a quiet honors student became a viral sensation and changed her school forever. Raven Coleman had transferred to Westfield High School in January, the only black student in her AP Physics class and one of 12 in a school of 2,000. She'd learned to navigate the subtle racism like a minefield, the compliments about how articulate she was, the weekly requests to touch her braids, the guidance counselor who kept suggesting she consider less challenging courses despite her 4.0 GPA from her previous school. But she could handle ignorance. What she couldn't handle was Hunter Maxwell and his crew treating her like prey. It started small, the way it always did. Hunter, 6'3" of entitled muscle with a wrestling scholarship to Michigan State, already locked down, began with accidental bumps in the hallway. His fingertips would graze her back as he passed, always with that smirk that said he knew exactly what he was doing. His boys would laugh. Connor Davis with his lacrosse stick perpetually slung over his shoulder. Bryce Thompson, whose father owned half the commercial real estate in Riverside. And Tyler Nash, whose Instagram stories featured a different girl every weekend. Whether they'd agreed to be filmed or not. Dumb? Rochester's looking good today, Hunter would say, deliberately getting her hometown wrong. That ass must be from all that running from Detroit crime, right? Raven kept her head down and her fists unclenched. She'd promised her grandmother, the woman who'd raised her after her mother's overdose, that this school would be different. No fights, no disciplinary records, just straight A's and a clear path to Northwestern's engineering program. She could endure 10 more months of this, but endurance had limits, and Hunter Maxwell was determined to find hers. The Tuesday that changed everything started with Connor accidentally spilling his sports drink on her calculus textbook during first period. The sticky blue liquid soaked through 200 pages of problems she'd meticulously annotated. Oops, Connor said, not even attempting to sound sincere. My bad. De toi. By third period, someone had taped a photoshopped image inside her locker, her yearbook photo, spliced onto a pornographic image with Riverside High's favorite scrawled across it in red marker. She tore it down with shaking hands, stuffing it in her backpack. Evidence. Always collect evidence. Her grandmother had taught her, even when the system don't want to see it. Fourth period brought its own special hell. Hunter sat directly behind her in AP history, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive that probably cost more than her grandmother's weekly grocery budget. He kept leaning forward, his breath hot on her neck. You know what I heard about black girls? He whispered while Mr. Davidson droned on about the Industrial Revolution. I heard y'all are wild in bed. That true. Rochester? Raven's pencil snapped in her grip. She didn't turn around. Oh, don't be like that. Hunter continued, his voice low enough that Davidson couldn't hear over his own lecture. I'm trying to compliment you. Most girls here would kill for my attention. I'm not most girls, Raven said quietly, still facing forward. No, Hunter agreed, and she could hear the predatory smile in his voice. You're definitely not. The bell rang, and Raven bolted from her seat. But Hunter's hand shot out, catching her wrist. His grip was iron, fingers completely encircling her arm. "Where you running to?" He stood slowly, using his height advantage to loom over her. "We're just getting to know each other. Let go." Raven's voice was steady, but inside, her heart hammered against her ribs. "Or what?" Hunter pulled her closer, close enough that she could see the cruel amusement in his pale blue eyes. "You gonna get me in trouble? You think anybody's gonna believe Detroit trash over me?" The classroom had emptied except for them and Davidson, who was conveniently focused on erasing the board. Raven knew he could see them in his peripheral vision. She also knew he'd been looking the other way all semester. "Last chance," Raven said. "Let go." Hunter laughed and released her with a little shove. "See you at lunch, Rochester. Wear something nice." Raven grabbed her books and fled, her wrist already showing the red marks from his grip. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. 6 more months. She could do 6 more months. But Hunter Maxwell had other plans. Lunchtime at Westfield High was a carefully orchestrated social hierarchy. The cafeteria's round tables created natural kingdoms. The athletes here, the theater kids there, the AP students clustered near the windows. Raven usually ate alone at a corner table, earbuds in. Homework spread out like a barrier. She was halfway through a physics problem when a shadow fell across her paper. "Party time, Rochester." Hunter stood there with his full crew, Connor spinning his lacrosse stick like a baton, Bryce counting a suspicious wad of cash, Tyler holding up his phone in that casual way that meant he was already recording. Behind them, a crowd was gathering. Word had spread. Something was about to happen. "I'm eating," Raven said without looking up. "No?" Hunter corrected, sweeping her homework off the table with one motion. Papers fluttered to the sticky cafeteria floor. "You're being rude. I'm trying to ask you out, and you keep playing hard to get—" "I'm not playing anything." Raven started to stand, but Connor and Tyler moved to flank her chair. "I said no, multiple times." "See, that's the problem with you people," Bryce chimed in, still flipping through his money. "No respect? My dad employs like 20 of your kind, and they know how to show gratitude." The cafeteria had gone quiet. Even the lunch ladies had stopped serving. Watching from behind the sneeze guards, Mrs. Patterson, the vice principal, stood near the entrance, but she was looking at her phone, deliberately not seeing. "Stand up," Hunter commanded. "No?" Hunter's face darkened. He wasn't used to being defied, especially not publicly, especially not by someone he considered beneath him. "I said stand up." He grabbed the front of her shirt, hauling her to her feet. The fabric strained. Raven heard the first thread pop. "Hunter," she said very quietly, "if you don't let go right now, you're going to regret it." The cafeteria held its collective breath. Someone, probably Tyler, was definitely filming. This would be on everyone's Snapchat story within minutes. Hunter leaned in close, his free hand sliding to her waist. "What you gonna do? Call the cops? With what phone?" He laughed. "Oh, wait. You probably can't afford one that works." That's when Raven saw it, the calculation in his eyes. This wasn't random escalation. This was planned. The gathering crowd, Tyler's strategic filming angle, even Mrs. Patterson's convenient distraction. They'd done this before. Maybe not to this extent. But this was a performance, and she was meant to be the victim. "Actually," Raven said conversationally, "I was thinking about something more immediate." Hunter's grip tightened on her shirt. "Like what?" "Like the fact that you're standing in my stance zone." "You're what?" But Raven was already moving. Her grandmother had started teaching her to box when she was 8 years old, right after her mother's first overdose. "The world ain't kind to black girls," Grandma had said, wrapping Raven's small hands. "You need to know how to protect yourself when being respectable ain't enough." 9 years of training crystallized into 3 seconds of perfect violence. Raven's left hand came up inside Hunter's grip, breaking his hold with a swift circular motion while simultaneously stepping into his space. Her right hand was already loaded. weight transferring from her back foot. As her hips rotated, the uppercut came from the ground up. Every muscle in her body working in harmony. Her fist connected with Hunter's jaw with a crack that echoed through the silent cafeteria. Hunter Maxwell, 220 pounds of wrestler, lifted clean off his feet. His head snapped back, eyes rolling white, and he flew backward like someone had yanked him on wires. He crashed into a table 6 feet away, sending trays flying, and hit the ground with a sound like a sack of meat dropping. He didn't get up. The cafeteria exploded. Screams, shouts, chairs screeching as people scrambled for better views or dove for cover. Connor dropped his lacrosse stick, face pale. Bryce's money scattered as he stumbled backward. Tuller kept filming, but his hands were shaking so bad the footage would be unwatchable. "Holy shit," someone whispered. "She killed him." Hunter groaned, proving he was alive, but he wasn't moving. A trickle of blood ran from his mouth where he'd bitten his tongue. "He's breathing," Raven announced calmly, shaking out her hand. Her knuckles were already swelling, but she'd thrown it clean. No broken bones. "He'll be fine. Probably." Connor found his courage first. "You crazy bitch. You can't just..." "Can't just what?" Raven turned to face him, and something in her eyes made him step back. "Can't defend myself when your boy put his hands on me? When he ripped my shirt?" She gestured to the torn fabric. "When all y'all stood around watching like it's some kind of show?" "That's assault," Bryce sputtered. "My father's a lawyer. You're going to jail." "Really?" Raven pulled out her phone, not broken, despite Hunter's assumption, and started scrolling. "Because I've got 6 weeks of texts from your boy talking about what he wanted to do to me. Real specific stuff. Stuff that would look real interesting to college admissions boards." She held up the phone, showing a string of messages. The closest students could see Hunter's name, his profile pic, and enough keywords to understand the content. "Then there's the photo y'all put in my locker this morning." "Yeah, I kept that too. And I'm betting when they check Tyler's phone, they're gonna find some interesting videos. You do know, filming girls without consent is a crime in Michigan, right?" Tyler dropped his phone like it was on fire. "Mrs. Patterson finally decided to intervene, pushing through the crowd with security guard Dennis. "What is going on here?" "Hunter Maxwell sexually assaulted me," Raven said clearly, making sure her voice carried. "He grabbed me, ripped my shirt, and I defended myself. It's all on camera." She pointed to the security dome in the corner. "That one should have the whole thing." Patterson's face went through several shades of pale. "Now, let's not be dramatic." "Dramatic?" Raven laughed. But there was no humor in it. "A 220-pound wrestler grabbed me, tore my clothes. And you think I'm being dramatic? Where were you 5 minutes ago when he had his hands on me? I didn't see." "No, you didn't want to see. Just like you haven't wanted to see for the past 6 weeks." Raven was rolling now, adrenaline mixing with 6 months of suppressed rage. "Just like Mr. Davidson doesn't see when Hunter harasses me every single day in history. Just like nobody saw when Connor dumped his drink on my textbook, or when someone put pornography in my locker." The crowd was recording everything now, dozens of phones capturing every word. Patterson looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. "You can't prove," she started. "Can't I?" Raven smiled. "And it wasn't nice. See? That's the thing about being the only black girl in most of my classes. I learned real quick to document everything. Every inappropriate comment, every accidental touch, every time a teacher looked the other way. I've got timestamps, screenshots, photos, and 6 different girls who'll testify that Hunter and his boys been doing this all year. So the question is, Mrs. Patterson, do you want to handle this correctly? Or do you want to explain to the school board why you let sexual assault happen in your cafeteria?" Dennis, the security guard, was on his radio calling for an ambulance. Hunter was stirring, moaning incoherently. Connor and Bryce hadn't moved, frozen, like they'd just realized how bad this looked. "She assaulted him," Tyler said weakly. "We all saw it." "Self-defense," Raven corrected. "And unlike y'all, I know the law." Michigan Penal Code 780.972. Use of force in self-defense. Look it up. She gathered her scattered homework with deliberate calm, ignoring the 100-plus students filming her every move. Her shirt hung open where Hunter had torn it, revealing the sports bra underneath. But she didn't try to cover up. Let them see. Let them all see what their golden boy had done. Oh, and Tyler? She paused on her way out. I'd delete whatever's on that phone before the cops get here. Distribution of intimate images without consent is a felony in Michigan. That's prison time, not county jail. Tyler went white as paper as sirens wailed in the distance. Raven walked out of the cafeteria with her head high. Behind her, she heard Connor whisper, "Dude, we're so fucked." Yes, she thought. Yes, you are? But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. The video hit social media before the ambulance even arrived. Number, Westfield Uppercut, was trending within an hour. By the time Raven reached the principal's office, escorted by 2 security guards like she was, the 3-their phone was blowing up with notifications. Principal Morrison was waiting, his face grave. "Miss Coleman, please have a seat." "I'll stand," Raven said. "Sitting makes me an easier target." Morrison flinched. That's not necessary. You're safe here." "Am I?" Raven let the question hang. "Because I've been reporting Hunter Maxwell's harassment for 6 weeks. And the only thing that changed was him getting bolder. I wasn't aware." February 15th. Raven interrupted. "I reported to Mrs. Patterson that Hunter grabbed my ass in the hallway. She said it was probably an accident in the crowded hall." February 22nd. "I showed Mr. Davidson text messages from Hunter describing what he wanted to do to me. He suggested I block the number." March 1st. "Connor Davis accidentally spilled acid on my lab coat in chemistry. Mrs. Chen gave me detention for not following safety protocols." She pulled out a notebook, flipping through pages of careful documentation. March 8th. "Someone put a Confederate flag sticker on my locker with 'Go back to Detroit' written on it. Security said, without video evidence, they couldn't do anything." March 15th. "I get the picture," Morrison said weakly. "Do you?" Raven's voice was sharp. "Because I've been getting the picture loud and clear. Hunter Maxwell's father donates $50,000 a year to the athletic program. His mother's on the school board. Connor's dad owns the company that just renovated the gym. Bryce's family practically built the new science wing. And me? I'm just the scholarship kid from Detroit who should be grateful to be here." Morrison's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and went pale. "The video has 3 million views." "Good." Raven finally sat down, but on the edge of the chair, ready to move. "Maybe now people will pay attention." "Miss Coleman, you have to understand. Physically assaulting another student. Self-defense. Regardless. The optics." "The optics?" Raven laughed bitterly. "A white boy twice my size sexually assaults a black girl half his weight. And you're worried about optics? Sir, with all due respect, the optics have been fucked since y'all decided Hunter Maxwell was untouchable." Morrison's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and winced. "I need to take this. Please wait here." He stepped into the outer office. But Raven could hear him through the thin door. "Yes, Mr. Maxwell. I understand." "No. See. I haven't seen the video." "Yes. We're handling it." Raven pulled out her own phone. The notifications were overwhelming. Messages from classmates she'd never spoken to. Interview requests from local news stations. Her grandmother calling repeatedly. She called her grandmother back. "Baby, are you okay?" Grandma's voice was tight with worry. "I saw the video." "Lord have mercy. I saw it. I'm okay." "Grandma, I'm sorry. I know I promised." "Hush now. You got nothing to apologize for. That boy put hands on you. You did what I taught you." "A pause. How's your hand?" Raven flexed her fingers. "Sore but not broken. I threw it clean. Just like you showed me. That's my girl. Now listen. I already called Mr. Johnson from church. He's a lawyer. does civil rights cases. He's on his way. Grandma, we can't afford. Raven Elise Coleman, you let me worry about that. You just keep your head up and don't say nothing to nobody without a lawyer present. You hear me? Yes. Ma'am. Morrison came back in, looking haggard. Miss Coleman, I've just spoken with Hunter's father. He's upset. His son sexually assaulted me. He claims you attacked Hunter unprovoked. Raven held up her phone, showing the video that was now everywhere. 57 people filmed it. You can literally see him grab me, rip my shirt, and refuse to let go when I told him to stop. Videos can be edited. Sir, Raven's voice was dangerously quiet. Are you really about to sit here and tell me that 57 different students all edited their videos to frame your star wrestler? Is that the story you want to go with when the news vans show up? As if on cue, someone knocked on the door. The secretary poked her head in. Mr. Morrison? Channel 4 is here. And Channel 7. And, CNN just pulled up. Morrison looked like he might faint. Kun? The video has 8 million views, Raven said helpfully. Also, LeBron James just retweeted it with fire emojis. He what? Another knock. This time, a tall black man in an expensive suit entered without waiting for permission. Marcus Johnson, attorney for Miss Coleman. I'd advise you not to say another word to my client without me present. He handed Morrison a card. I've already been in contact with the ACLU. They're very interested in the pattern of discrimination and sexual harassment at this school. Now wait a minute. 6 weeks of documented harassment. Johnson continued smoothly. Multiple reports ignored. A clear pattern of protecting certain students while allowing others to be victimized. And now we have video evidence of sexual assault in your cafeteria while your vice principal stood by and watched. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The lawsuit practically writes itself. Morrison's desk phone rang. He grabbed it desperately. Hello? Yes. Superintendent. Yes. I've seen it. No. I understand. He hung up slowly. I've been instructed to place you on suspension pending investigation. Miss Coleman, for defending herself against sexual assault? Johnson's voice could have cut glass. Please, do that. The press conference will be spectacular. That is? Where's Hunter? Raven asked suddenly. Is he suspended too? Morrison shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Maxwell is at the hospital being evaluated. That's not what I asked. Silence. So I'm suspended for defending myself. But the boy who assaulted me isn't. Is that correct? Raven looked at her lawyer. You getting this? Johnson was taking notes. Every word. Another knock. The secretary again, looking frazzled. Mr. Morrison? Hunter's parents are here. And there are 3 more news vans outside. And someone from the Department of Education just called? Tell the Maxwells I'll be right with them. Morrison said weakly. Actually, Johnson interjected. My client will be pressing charges. Sexual assault, harassment, and conspiracy. Given the clear pattern of behavior, I'd advise the Maxwells to retain criminal counsel. This is ridiculous, Morrison exploded. She knocked him unconscious after he sexually assaulted her. Johnson replied calmly. On camera, in front of witnesses, after 6 weeks of documented harassment that this school ignored, would you prefer she'd let him continue? How far should she have let it go? Principal Morrison? Should she have waited until he raped her? The word hung in the air like a bomb. No one said anything about, no? Johnson pulled out his phone. Let me read you some of Mr. Maxwell's text messages to my client. Can't wait to get you alone. You'll learn to like it. Black girls always act tough at first. Should I continue? Morrison was green. I wasn't aware. No. You chose not to be aware. Just like you chose not to be aware that Connor Davis has been reported by 6 different girls for inappropriate touching. Just like you chose not to be aware that Tyler Nash has a private Instagram where he shares upskirt photos of female students. Just like you chose not to be aware that Bryce Thompson has been selling drugs out of his locker for 2 years, how do you... My client documented everything. Names, dates, incidents. She's been building a case because she knew no one would protect her. Johnson stood. Now, we're leaving. Miss Coleman needs medical attention for her hand, and then we're going to the police station to file charges. She can't just leave. Watch her. Johnson helped Raven to her feet. Oh, and Principal Morrison? You might want to check Tyler Nash's phone before the police get here. I understand there's some interesting content regarding underage girls. Wouldn't want to add covering up child pornography to the lawsuit. They walked out, leaving Morrison reaching for his trash can, looking like he might be sick. In the outer office, they ran straight into the Maxwells. Hunter's father was exactly what Raven had expected, silver-haired. Expensive suit. Face twisted with rage. His mother was a thin, blonde woman with Botox-frozen features and cold eyes. You? Mister, Maxwell snarled. You little. Choose your next words very carefully. Mr. Maxwell, Johnson warned. Anything you say can and will be used in the civil suit? My son is in the hospital. Your son is a sexual predator, Raven said quietly, and everyone knows it now. Mrs. Maxwell stepped forward. How dare you? No? Raven's voice cut through the room. How dare you? How dare you raise a son who thinks he can put his hands on any girl he wants? How dare you use your money to cover up his crimes? How dare you create a monster and then act shocked when someone finally stops him? We'll destroy you. Mr. Maxwell hissed. You think you can come to our town? Attack our son. Your son attacked me. It's on video. The whole world has seen it. Raven pulled out her phone, showing the view count. 12 million views. Your son is famous now. Everyone knows exactly what Hunter Maxwell is. Students had gathered in the hallway. Phones out. Recording this new confrontation, the Maxwells seemed to realize it at the same moment. Come on. Richard. Mrs. Maxwell tugged at her husband's arm. Not here. As they retreated, Raven called out, Oh, Mr. Maxwell? You might want to tell Hunter's college recruiters to watch the video. I don't think Michigan State wants a sexual predator on their wrestling team. Maxwell's face went purple, but his wife dragged him away. Johnson guided Raven through the crowd of students. Some were filming, but others were clapping. A few girls called out support. Thank you. About time someone stopped him. You're my hero. As they reached the main entrance, Raven saw the news vans lined up outside. Reporters surged forward. Microphones extended. Miss Coleman, how does it feel to be viral? Will you press charges? Do you have a message for other girls facing harassment? Johnson tried to shield her, but Raven stopped. She looked directly at the cameras. Yeah, I have a message, she said clearly. To every girl who's been told to be quiet, to not make waves, to just take it. You don't have to. Document everything. Tell everyone, and if they put their hands on you, defend yourself. The system won't protect us. We have to protect ourselves. But violence, one reporter started, is sometimes the only language predators understand. Raven finished. I'm done being polite about my own safety. We all should be. Johnson guided her to his car as questions continued to fly. As they drove away, Raven saw students streaming out of the building, some protesting, others fighting. The carefully maintained order of Westfield High was crumbling. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. Raven smiled grimly and screenshotted it. Evidence. Always collect evidence. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and industrial disinfectant. Raven sat in the interview room, her swollen hand wrapped in ice. As Detective Patricia Williamson, black woman with sharp eyes and graying temples, reviewed the evidence spread across the table. 57 videos? Williams said, shaking her head. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never seen assault documented from so many angles. Everyone films everything now, Raven said quietly. Usually it just ends up on social media for laughs. This time, it might actually help. Williams pulled up one of the clearer videos on her laptop. Even though Raven had lived it, watching Hunter grab her, seeing the fabric tear, made her stomach turn. The detective paused at the moment of impact. Raven's perfect uppercut frozen on screen. That's professional-level technique. Williams observed, "Where'd you train?" "My grandmother's garage. She used to box before she had kids." Said, "Every woman in our family needs to know how to throw a proper punch." "Smart woman." Williams closed the laptop. "Here's what's going to happen. Hunter Maxwell will be charged with sexual assault in the 4th degree and assault and battery. The other 3, Connor Davis, Bryce Thompson, and Tyler Nash, will be charged as accessories. With this much evidence, the prosecutor will have a solid case." "But," Raven heard the hesitation, "but the Maxwells have money. They'll hire the best lawyers. Try to plea it down. Claim it was horseplay gone wrong. They'll paint you as the aggressor, angry black girl with a violent streak." "I know." Raven had expected this. "That's why I documented everything for 6 weeks. This wasn't isolated. It was escalating." Williams leaned forward. "The other girls who were harassed, will they testify?" "I don't know. They're scared. These boys' families own half the town." A knock interrupted them. Johnson poked his head in. "The prosecutor's here?" "And Raven. Your grandmother's outside." Raven found her grandmother in the waiting area, still wearing her hospital scrubs from her shift as a nursing assistant. Loretta Coleman was 71 years old, 5 feet tall, and tougher than anyone Raven knew. "Come here, baby." Grandma pulled her into a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you." "I broke my promise." "About fighting." "No. You kept a bigger promise. The one about protecting yourself." Grandma held Raven's face in her weathered hands. "Your mama would be proud too." They were interrupted by a commotion outside. Through the window, Raven could see more news vans arriving. Her phone, on silent, showed hundreds of missed calls and thousands of social media notifications. "LeBron James wants to send you to his boxing coach," Johnson said, scrolling through his phone. "Serena Williams tweeted about you." The governor's office called. "This has become significant. I just wanted him to stop touching me," Raven said softly. "And now the whole world is talking about why girls shouldn't have to beg for that basic respect." Johnson replied, "You've started something." 3 hours later, after giving her formal statement and watching Hunter Maxwell get brought in, his jaw wired shut, his father screaming about lawsuits, Raven finally made it home. The modest apartment she shared with her grandmother had reporters camped outside. "Back entrance," Grandma said, navigating through the alley with practiced ease. Inside, Raven collapsed on the couch, exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her drained and sore. Her phone buzzed constantly until she turned it off completely. "You hungry?" Grandma asked. "No. Maybe. I don't know." Raven stared at her swollen knuckles. "Grandma, what if I killed him?" "But you didn't. You threw it perfect. Just like I taught you. Enough to stop him. Not enough to do permanent damage." Grandma sat beside her. "That's control. Baby, that's the difference between protection and vengeance. They're going to come after us. The Maxwells. Their lawyers. The whole town. Let them come. We faced worse." Grandma's eyes grew distant. "Did I ever tell you why I started boxing?" Raven shook her head. "It was 1965. I was 15, working at a diner after school. The owner's son kept putting his hands on me. One day, I'd had enough. Broke his nose with a coffee pot." She smiled grimly. "They fired me, of course, but his daddy paid for my boxing lessons, hoping I'd learn to control my temper. Instead, I learned to control my power. Big difference." That night, Raven couldn't sleep. She scrolled through social media, watching her story explode across the internet. Raven Uppercut was trending globally. The video had 30 million views, and climbing. News outlets from around the world were covering it, but it was the other messages that kept her awake. Hundreds of girls sharing their own stories. "This happened to me, but no one believed me. I wish I'd been brave like you. My school protects athletes too. Thank you for fighting back." At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. You ruined my life." Hunter's voice was muffled through his wired jaw, but the venom was clear. "Hunter, shut up. You think you won? My dad's going to destroy you. We're suing for assault, defamation, emotional distress. You'll be paying us for the rest of your pathetic life." "This call is being recorded," Raven said calmly. Hitting the record button. "Do you really want to threaten me while you're out on bail?" "It's not a threat. It's a promise. You're done at Westfield. Done in this town. We own nothing." Raven interrupted. "You own nothing that matters. Not anymore. My jaw is broken. Your jaw will heal. The girls you traumatized? That damage lasts forever." She took a breath. "But here's the thing, Hunter. This doesn't have to define you. You could learn from this. Grow. Become better. Fuck you. Or you could stay exactly who you are and watch your world get smaller and smaller until all you have left is your anger and your daddy's money." He hung up. Raven saved the recording and sent it to her lawyer. Evidence. Always evidence. The next morning, Westfield High looked like a war zone. Police cars, news fans, and protesters filled the parking lot. Parents demanded answers. Students chose sides. Signs reading "Justice for Raven" competed with "Hunter was framed" posters. Raven wasn't supposed to be there, he suspended. Remember, but Johnson had arranged a meeting with the school board. As they walked through the main entrance, flanked by her grandmother and a growing team of lawyers from the ACLU, students in the hallway stopped to stare. Some applauded, others glared. A group of girls approached, led by Emma Chen, a quiet junior Raven recognized from her chemistry class. "We want to testify," Emma said, chin raised, despite her trembling hands. "About Connor, about all of them. We've been scared. But not anymore." Behind Emma stood 11 other girls, each with their own story, each ready to speak. The school board meeting was held in the auditorium to accommodate the crowd. Every seat was filled. The board members, 7 white adults in their 50s and 60s, sat behind a long table looking deeply uncomfortable. Board President Harold Morrison, no relation to the principal, called for order. "We're here to discuss the incident involving Miss Coleman and Mr. Maxwell. Sexual assault," Raven's lawyer corrected loudly. "We're here to discuss the sexual assault of my client and this school's systematic failure to protect female students." "That's inflammatory." "That's accurate." Johnson stood, addressing the crowd as much as the board. "We have 57 videos of the assault. We have 6 weeks of documented harassment reports that were ignored. We have 12 young women prepared to testify about assault and harassment by the same group of male students. We have evidence of administrators actively discouraging victims from coming forward. So yes, let's discuss that." The crowd erupted, parents shouting, students cheering or booing, reporters scribbling notes. Morrison banged his gavel uselessly. Furthermore, Johnson continued once the noise died down, "We've discovered that Tyler Nash was operating an Instagram account where he shared non-consensual intimate images of female students. The FBI is now involved." Gasps rippled through the auditorium. Several parents grabbed their daughters and headed for the exits. "This is a witch hunt." Richard Maxwell stood in the audience, face red with rage. "My son is the victim here. He needs reconstructive surgery." "Your son needs therapy," Grandma Coleman said, standing slowly, her voice carried despite her small stature. "And a jail cell? In that order. How dare you? How dare you?" Grandma's voice cracked like a whip. "Your boy put his hands on my granddaughter, tore her clothes, terrorized her for weeks. And you have the audacity to claim he's the victim? She broke his jaw. She defended herself. Something she wouldn't have needed to do if this school did its job." Grandma turned to the board. "Where were you when these girls were being hunted in your hallways? Where were you when they begged for help? Counting donation checks?" Board member Janet Phillips cleared her throat. "Mrs. Coleman, we understand emotions are high. You understand nothing. It was Raven's turn to stand. You want to talk about emotions? Let's talk about the fear of walking to class knowing someone's going to grab you. Let's talk about the humiliation of having pornographic images of yourself passed around school. Let's talk about the rage of being told to take it as a compliment when someone assaults you. She pulled out her phone. I have here messages from 237 girls from schools across the country, all sharing similar stories, all saying their schools protected the boys who hurt them. This isn't just about Westfield. This is about a culture that tells boys they're entitled to our bodies and tells girls we're wrong to fight back. Miss Coleman. Morrison tried again. Violence is never. Self-defense isn't violence. Raven interrupted. It's survival. And until you can guarantee our safety, we'll guarantee it ourselves. The meeting devolved into chaos. The board tried to maintain control, but the crowd wouldn't be silenced. Parents demanded resignations. Students organized walkouts. The carefully maintained facade of Westfield High was crumbling in real time. By noon, Westfield walkout was trending. Students across the country posted videos of themselves leaving class in solidarity. Celebrities weighed in. Politicians made statements. What started as one girl defending herself had become a movement. That evening, Principal Morrison announced his resignation, followed quickly by Vice Principal Patterson. 3 board members stepped down. The superintendent launched a full investigation into harassment policies district-wide, but the real victory came 3 days later in a small conference room at the prosecutor's office. Hunter Maxwell, flanked by his team of expensive lawyers, accepted a plea deal. Guilty to sexual assault in the 4th degree, 2 years probation, mandatory counseling, and registration as a sex offender. This is outrageous, Richard Maxwell sputtered. For touching a girl's shirt? For sexual assault? The prosecutor corrected firmly. Your son is lucky Miss Coleman showed restraint. Another few inches higher, and that uppercut could have killed him. Hunter himself said nothing, his jaw still wired, his eyes hollow. The golden boy was gone, replaced by someone forced to face consequences for the first time in his life. Connor Davis pled guilty to harassment and got probation. Tyler Nash was facing federal charges for the Instagram account. Bryce Thompson's drug dealing earned him a year in juvenile detention. The Maxwell's civil lawsuit against Raven fell apart when their own lawyer saw the evidence. No jury would side with them. Not with those videos. Not with the testimony of 13 girls. Not with the text messages and documented reports. 2 weeks later, Raven returned to Westfield High. The suspension had been lifted with an apology and a promise of significant changes to school culture. As she walked through the front doors, she found the hallways transformed. Posters about consent and respect covered the walls. Security cameras had been installed in previous blind spots. A new zero-tolerance policy for harassment was actually being enforced. Raven! Emma Chen ran up, smiling wider than Raven had ever seen. Did you hear? They're starting a self-defense club. The school's actually paying for an instructor. That's great, Raven said, genuinely pleased. Will you help teach it? Raven flexed her still healing hand. Maybe when this is better? Her first class back was AP History, the same room where Hunter had tormented her. Mr. Davidson had been replaced by Miss Martinez, a young teacher who actually paid attention to what happened in her classroom. Welcome back, Raven, she said warmly. We saved your seat. It was the same seat, but everything else had changed. The boys who used to snicker at Hunter's harassment kept their heads down. The girls who used to avoid eye contact now nodded in solidarity. The power dynamic had shifted fundamentally. At lunch, Raven didn't eat alone. A table of girls waved her over. Some she recognized. Others, she didn't. They talked about classes, college plans, the new policies, normal teenage things. It was nice. You know you're famous, right? One girl said. Like, actually famous. I just wanted to eat my lunch in peace, Raven replied. Yeah. Well, now, millions of girls can eat their lunch in peace because of you. After school, Raven found herself back in the gym where they'd originally planned to start the self-defense club. 20 girls showed up, then 30. By the time the instructor arrived, There were over 50. Guess we need a bigger space. The instructor laughed. As Raven helped demonstrate basic defensive stances, she thought about her grandmother's words. The difference between protection and vengeance. She'd protected herself. But more importantly, she'd protected others. The girls in this room wouldn't have to document harassment for 6 weeks before someone believed them. They wouldn't have to throw a perfect uppercut to be heard. Progress. That night, Grandma made Raven's favorite dinner, mac and cheese with cornbread. Comfort food for a warrior. Proud of you, Grandma said simply, for fighting, for surviving, for standing up, for changing things. She paused. For showing restraint. A lesser person would have done worse. Sometimes I wish I had, Raven admitted quietly. When I think about all the girls he hurt before me, can't change the past, baby, can only make the future better. And you did that. Raven's phone buzzed. Another message from a girl she'd never met. Thanking her. She'd gotten thousands of these. Each one a reminder that her story had resonated far beyond Westfield. 6 months later, Raven stood at a podium in the Michigan State Capitol. She'd been invited to testify in support of new legislation, the Raven-Coleman Act, that would require schools to maintain public databases of harassment complaints and mandate real consequences for ignored reports. I shouldn't be here, she told the assembled legislators. I should be worried about calculus tests and college applications like any other 17-year-old. Instead, I'm here because the adults who were supposed to protect me chose to protect my attacker instead. She looked out at the crowd. Survivors, advocates, parents, and yes, even some former bullies seeking redemption. But I'm also here because one moment changed everything. One uppercut. Not because violence is the answer, but because sometimes defending yourself is the only way to make people listen. No one should have to knock someone out to be believed. No one should have to go viral to get justice. That's why we need this law. The bill passed unanimously. As Raven left the Capitol, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Raven, this is Hunter Maxwell. She stopped walking. Hunter, I wanted to apologize. Like, really apologize. Not because my lawyer told me to or because my parents are making me, because I get it now. What I did, who I was. His voice was different, older, sadder. I'm in therapy, real therapy. And I wanted you to know that you were right. This doesn't have to define me. I'm trying to be better. Good. Raven said simply, do the work. I am. I'm speaking at schools now about consent. Abutantitlement, about how I was raised to think I could take whatever I wanted. He paused. I tell them about you, about what you taught me with that uppercut. What's that? That everyone has the right to defend themselves? That no means no. That real strength isn't about taking, it's about respecting. Another pause. I'm sorry, Raven, for everything. I appreciate that. Hunter, really? Good luck. She hung up and smiled. Change was possible. People could grow. Systems could improve. Sometimes it took an uppercut to start the conversation, but the conversation was what mattered. As she walked to her car, where Grandma waited to drive her home, Raven thought about the girls who would come after her. They wouldn't have to hide their strength. They wouldn't have to document their pain in silence. They wouldn't have to throw the perfect punch to be heard. Because Raven Coleman had thrown it for them, the uppercut heard round the world. And the world had finally started listening.